Today is October 9th, 2024. It's 7:30 p.m. and this is the Municipal Land Use Board of the Borough of River Edge meeting. Marina, can you read the Zoom statement, please?
Yes, no problem. This meeting of the Municipal Land Use Board of the Borough of River Edge is being held remotely and recorded via Zoom due to Borough Council Chambers unavailability and is in compliance with the provisions of the Open Public Meetings Act and associated regulations. Notice of this remote meeting was published in the Bergen Record, posted on the front doors of Borough Hall, and posted on the borough's website. The notice included dial and login information necessary for public participation and access to this meeting remotely. A copy of the agenda for this meeting was made available on the borough's website near the posting of the meeting notice and included a dial-in login information. During the public comment period of this meeting, if you would like to make a public comment, please raise your hand on Zoom or dial *9 on your telephone keypad to raise your hand. The board will address you by name or by the last 4 digits of your telephone number. You may mute and unmute yourself by pressing the microphone icon on Zoom or dialing *6 on your telephone keypad. You must state your name and address prior to making a public comment. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Can we have roll call, please?
Yes, the mayor is excused tonight and the chairman is excused tonight. Ms. Boland?
Here.
Mr. Merman?
Here.
Mr. Pfeffer?
Here.
Mr. Cray?
Here.
Mr. Kinigo? No. See him absent at the moment. Councilman Glass is excused tonight. Mr. Gibbons?
Here.
And Mr. Basid is absent. Also
Okay.
present, Mr. Behrens, our board planner.
Okay. Approval of minutes. There's no minutes available for approval. And we have a memorialization, and that is the memorialization for Sweet Spot River Edge LLC, 75 Route 4 East, Block 1415, Lot 1.01. And are there any comments, corrections, or deletions or what have you by any of the board members regarding the memorialization?
I did have one edit, I realized, on page 15, paragraph or subparagraph E. I had included an old language about the opaque window coverings. Right now it says opaque, frosted, or patterned, but we decided not patterned, so I'm going to delete that
Okay.
from the resolution.
All right. Other than that, do any other board members have comments?
No.
No? Not hearing any, I'll entertain a motion to accept them.
So moved. Second.
Okay. Well, we gotta take a roll call vote. Well,
Yes.
all right. So, all in favor, or oppose, you'll indicate it to Marina as she records the vote.
I'll go through with the roll call vote. Ms.
Right.
Boland?
Yes.
Mr. Merman?
Yes.
Mr. Pfeffer?
Yes.
Mr. Cray?
Yes.
Mr. Gibbons?
Yes.
Okay, the motion passes.
Very good. We'll move to the regular agenda for tonight. I'm going to move Quality Homes Developers to later in the evening. And what we'll do is we'll have a 9:30 curfew for the Happy Dog LLC, and we'll have a 10 p.m. Curfew for the Quality Homes. So with that, we'll move on to the completeness review for Happy Dog LLC. which is at 47 River Edge Road, block 409, lot 3. The proposed addition of overnight boarding and training, maintenance, outdoor operation of retail business is not permitted use, and the proposed hours of operation are not permitted in the C1 zone. So, Mr. Behrens, can you give us your review of the application for completeness
Completeness
purposes?
items? Yeah, sure can. Good evening, everyone. Tom Behrens, board planner. So just to be clear, the tenant has actually occupied the space in question for, I believe, at least 6 months, having received a CO from the building department. And there are just certain aspects of the business that the applicant would like to pursue that technically it's been determined require D1 use variance relief. And in addition to that, the applicant, who's not the owner of the property, it was at my recommendation that the apartment also be referenced as part of this application, because we're looking at the whole property. And the apartment in question has been there for at least 40 years based on records that I've seen. So again, because we're reviewing this, it was my suggestion that the property be reviewed holistically. So I think, on the one hand, we should consider everything, but really focus on what the applicant's proposing. That being said, from a completeness perspective, we do now have a formal site plan which addresses the site plan conditions, as well as a proper property survey, as well as some, we'll call them architectural renderings for the interior of the space, which again are currently occupied and have received whatever permits were necessary to do whatever work was done. So from that perspective, I do believe we have enough information to proceed this evening.
Okay. So that's your recommendation?
That is my recommendation, yes.
Okay. Without going down individually, do any of the board members have any comments regarding the completeness? All right. Not hearing any. I'll entertain a motion to deem this application complete.
So move.
Second.
Thank you. All right. I guess we can vote on this. Marina, you've got to take a head count of individuals for the motion.
We can just do a voice vote, so
Okay,
all in
fine,
favor?
fine. Okay. All in favor, say aye.
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 Aye. Approve, disapprove? Not hearing any abstentions? Fine. Okay, so it's approved. We can move on.
Okay.
let
And just
me-
to add, Mr. Merman, for the record, I did review the proofs submitted by the applicant's attorney and found them to be sufficient for the board to hear the application tonight. So they are good to proceed.
Great, great. So now we can move to the regular presentation. Mr. Atkins, are you still representing this applicant?
I am, otherwise I wouldn't be here.
Yeah, well, yeah, for the record, yeah.
I would be
All right.
watching the Mets game. By the way, for any of you who don't know, Francisco Lindor hit a grand slam home run in the 6th inning, and the Mets are now winning 4-1.
Oh,
4-1,
so this
yep.
could-
I,
so
c- I
this-
could
this
see,
could-
I could see Lisa freaking out a couple minutes ago. I figured something happened.
I just looked at my phone while you were reviewing.
Well, so now you put the pressure on me to approve this before the end of the game, is that
No
it?
question, no question.
No question. All right, would you like to
Yeah, if I
present
could
your-
give a brief little opening, and then I will have my
Sure.
client testify. The town granted Miss Gilronen's Happy Dog business permits a little over 6 months ago, and she's been operating her business, which when she applied for a permit, she said, and the use that was approved was dog store, packaged goods, gear, grooming, training, ongoing training, walks, care, hikes on and off the property, and an office daytime, and with an asterisk, if allowed, overnight board and train, If not, we'll apply for variance. So that was the CO that she was given. She's here applying now to allow her to use the premises for overnight boarding, but I want to make sure the board understands what she's asking. She is not looking to board strange dogs overnight. She does dog training. She only wants to board overnight dogs that she's either training or has trained if the owners are going away and they don't want to lose the training. This will not be a dog kennel, so to speak, open to the general public. The hook to put a dog in her facility, in her business, would be it's a dog either Ms. Garonin is trained or is in fact in the process of training. And concomitant with that would be if you, and you can see in the site plan that was submitted, and by the way, she's a tenant there. She doesn't own it. She's done nothing to the property other than install a fence, which is shown, for which I might add, she got a permit. There's a little grass area in the back. If she walked the dog at night when it was boarded with her, that's where they would go unless she felt safe walking in the street. But that's all she's really seeking permission for. It's a business that I think has a merit. Obviously, to have dogs trained is better than to have dogs not trained. And with that, if anybody has any questions for me, I would like to have my client testify.
Fine, you can proceed.
Okay, Miss. Should I swear her or is somebody from the board?
No,
gonna-
the,
I will.
Marina's,
If you please raise your right hand, do you swear or affirm that the testimony that you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
And please state your name, spell your last name, and provide your address for the record.
My name is Stephanie Garonin and my middle name is Marie. And my address, my spelling of my name is Stephanie. Marie is Marie. Garonin is Gilronan. And I live at 47 River Edge Road, apartment A.
Is that the upstairs of the premises that is the subject of this application?
Yes,
And where is the business?
at 47 River Edge Road.
Downstairs?
Downstairs,
Okay, same building though.
same building.
Okay, that's what I want to establish. Now, and the property is as set forth on the site plan that's been submitted?
Correct,
And you've made no changes to it other than the fence?
correct,
Is that correct?
correct.
Should I be marking the site plan as applicant's exhibit 1, Mr. Chairman?
that's up to Marina. Do you want that marked?
It's the same as what was provided to the board previously with the application?
Yes.
Okay, that's fine. We don't need it to mark it.
Okay, no problem. All right, before I ask any questions, you had prepared, you felt more comfortable by reading a statement to the board?
Yeah, I would like for you guys to get to know me and who I am coming into your town. So just a little bit about me and my company. My name is Stephanie Garonin. I have been a resident of Bergen County for the last 33 years. I entered a dog world 12 years ago, walking dogs, and 7.5 years ago, I started Happy Doggy training dogs. Today, fast forward to today, I'm a certified professional dog trainer. I'm a certified integrative health counselor. I'm in the middle of studying canine nutrition, and I continue to take CEU classes every year to maintain my certification as a trainer, as well as to be able to help our community deeper by furthering my credentials to become a dog behavior consultant. The way I train, I blend together my backgrounds to provide a full training experience to help harmonize relationships between families and their dogs through safe and gentle ways of changing behavior through an integrative whole life approach, which addresses an array of areas in human and dog's life. The last 7 years, we have run our company mobily, providing training and ongoing care and maintenance support once dogs have completed their initial training. Before finding our space here in River Edge, we've offered training, an adventure care program, solo walks and hikes, solo in-home stays, and occasionally wedding handling services. And now with adding our stationary home base here in River Edge, we finally get to offer services that we've been asked to offer for years from the community that have also been deeply on my heart for years, as it's the complete full picture of training and supporting clients in the community long-term. With our space here now, we get to offer the community a holistic food store, a grooming spa. We have a hybrid space to use for training and our adventure care program happening off and on property. We have an office, and hopefully now, as the purpose of this meeting, adding overnight care to offer only to our training clients to have a safe space for their dogs to stay and maintain their training with us as needed, whether that's a single night or when their dogs, they go on vacation for a few times a year.
When you,
Thank you so much.
When you say maintain training, what does that mean?
Keep their training going, not going to somebody that isn't gonna keep up with their training.
So you would never be advertising, come board your dog with
No.
us?
No.
And Ms. Gilronin, if the board were to approve you having the dogs overnight, in what part of your premises would they be?
In the downstairs.
The first floor?
Mhm.
And you're surrounded there, are you not? And at least in the backyard, there are residential neighbors?
Yes,
And on the side is a commercial property with some residents above it?
yes. Mhm.
Has anybody ever complained about your operation in the 6 or so months that you've been there?
No, no.
And
complaints.
they all got notices, did they not?
Yep.
I'm not aware that anyone has shown up to object to this, are you?
No,
Did anyone ever call you and say, don't you dare do this?
no. Mm-mm.
And what would be, in your opinion, the maximum number of dogs, if the board were to approve this, that you would have at any given time in your premises for boarding?
It's hard to say, but maybe between 5 and 10.
Would you be willing to be restricted to those numbers? That no more than 10?
I mean, it depends. It really depends, but that's where I'm thinking, is just my values of keeping it small. And not, I don't want to be like this 200 dog place.
Well,
that
what I'm
exists.
asking
I
is
just
if
wanna
the
keep
board
it-
were to approve it, to have a maximum at any one night of 10 dogs. Would you
yeah.
accept that as a condition?
Yeah, if that was appropriate, totally.
And if you had the dogs boarded there overnight, what would be the purposes? You're not giving any kind of retail use outside. You're not selling products after hours or people coming to your premises.
No,
What would be the purpose of going outside with a dog? What would be the only purpose?
just to relieve themselves.
And how about, or a walk?
Yeah, to take them for a walk before bed, and if there's inclement weather, to just use the yard to go to the bathroom.
So you wouldn't be engaging in any kind of retail activity, so to speak. You wouldn't be selling anything or having people come to the site after
No,
hours.
no,
So in
Something.
essence, you'd be obeying all the hour regulations of River Edge, other than coming out once or twice to walk a dog.
right, and reasonable hours.
That's it.
Yes,
And that's all you're seeking, is that not so?
yes.
Now, even during your daytime hours, do you use the outside of the premises much?
No, most of our activity is happening off property, and we have a very small portion happening on property, like a hybrid.
And when customers come to bring their dogs or to pick up dog food, do they spend any time at your place?
Like 2 or 5 minutes,
That's it?
maybe 6.
Okay, so they come, drop the dog off and leave?
Yes.
Or they
Mhm.
come, buy dog food and leave?
Yes.
There's no reason, and when they drop the dog off for training, they don't stay and watch you train?
Well, I train with them mostly off property.
When you say to me off property, you train with them in their homes?
Yeah, their homes and parks, things like that.
But if they drop a dog off for training.
For maintenance training only, that's where it's done with me.
Right,
they
and
drop-
the customer doesn't participate in that?
Correct, they just drop and leave.
Right, so there's no, for lack of a better word, number of cars parking at any time at your facility,
No.
ever?
I mean, no.
I mean, they come and they go.
Yeah,
And you live there, so you parked something there, do you not?
yes, in the back.
And does anybody else live with you?
My partner, yes.
And does he or she also have a vehicle?
He also has a vehicle.
And what
yes.
kind of vehicles do you have?
We both have vans,
And,
Sprinter vans.
and they're not marked or written up with commercial,
No, they're personal vehicles.
personal,
Mhm.
and that's the only cars that are parked there at all?
Yep.
On the site, and I think the plan shows you have approximately 10 parking spaces. They may not all
I
conform
believe so. Yeah, I know.
to
they
what
might
the
be.
town now requires, but that's what's been there for many, many years, right?
Mhm.
And do you ever envision needing all those spaces anyway?
Probably not. I mean, I hope, but probably not. I
Is
hope
there,
for business sake.
do you think you're serving a good purpose for the community if they grant this?
Absolutely.
And what's the good purpose you think you're serving?
So it's really there's a lot of layers to this, but if you have your dog trained and you can have them be watched by your trainer, that's a wonderful thing. They don't lose the training. It's a lot better for the community. It keeps the community safer to be able to have dogs in the, the hands of professionals versus hands of non-professionals where they, dogs can get loose from people that are not professionals, and be running in the streets. Dogs can be left unattended in yards if they're not under professional care and become a nuisance to the neighborhood. There's a lot of reasons why it's better to have them stay with the trainer as needed versus just somebody that's not a professional.
And do you think that's a good thing for a community to have?
Oh, yeah, definitely.
And talk to me about, is part of your training have anything to do possibly with dogs barking?
What do you mean by that?
Can you train a dog not to bark? And
Oh, yes, of course. Yeah.
and is that part of what you do?
Yes. Mhm.
And you haven't, in the 6.5 months or so that you've been there, you haven't had any complaints from any of the residents?
No, and if there is a bark, it's so easy to, I don't want to say, it's simple for me. But it's super simple to interrupt them, redirect them, and for some reason, if those two things don't work, which they usually do,
I wish you would have known years ago.
we would just, abandon, you just start moving and they stop barking.
Mm.
And also dogs can't smell and bark at the same time for anybody that has a dog.
Really?
Correct. Yes. So you need an emergency treat in your pocket.
So really, what you're asking the board, you wouldn't be doing anything different than you're doing now.
No, it would be everything that we do during the daytime. Like the way that we operate off and on property now. Just if you needed care for your dog overnight because you're going away on vacation and you are only a training client, I want to really emphasize that. Then you would just stay overnight and, that's it. Just go to bed.
You
Go
you
to
don't
sleep.
own the property, do you?
No.
You just lease it.
Yes, we just rent it.
I don't really have any other questions for Ms. Gilronin, if any of the board has any questions.
Okay, I'll ask the board if they have any comments of this witness. Ms. Boland?
I have no comment.
Okay, Mr. Pfeffer?
Yes, thank you. I just have a few questions. First of all, you do have a lease for the premises?
Yes. Mhm.
And is the lease, does the lease address the nature of your business? In other words,
Yes.
does it mentions what kind of business you have there?
Yes.
I could add that the lease was contingent on her getting the certificate of occupancy from the town to have the business there. Otherwise, she would not have entered the premises.
Yes.
Okay, and what is the remaining term on the lease?
We signed it for 2 years with, we wanted to make sure that we would get this variance before committing to something longer. But I would like to be in that same spot for decades.
So when does this lease, when does it end?
So that it will expire,
Well, it's 6 months old.
yeah, so in March of 2026.
Okay, and I guess one concern or curiosity I have is how, well, first of all, what would you say are the different requirements between being a boarder as opposed to just being a trainer that has dogs sleeping over?
That's a great question. So we'll never be a place that just, you called today and said, can I drop my dog off tomorrow for boarding? A boarding place would say yes. There's no requirements. They just, if your dog's friendly, that's really the one requirement that they have. They can have behavior issues and a boarder would just say yes tomorrow. The way I've always operated our company, because we have our daytime services now, we have a very extensive training, onboarding process, interview process, training process. If you guys have looked into our company at all, you could see that we have, I have people fill out a form, a questionnaire form. I do a 30-minute discovery call with them. Then I get together with them one-on-one in person. Then I do a social assessment with them. I have them have a clear stool sample to make sure before they even mingle for that other interview. All that's free, by the way. This is just to explore and make sure this is going to be a good fit. And I don't charge for that because I want to also be able to say no to somebody, not have it just be a one-way street. It's a two-way street. And then from there, then I can assess with a family, like, okay, your dog needs, a basic obedience training package, or your dog needs, some dogs I work with for 6 months. And another thing I want to say too is some dogs might never be fit to be in our like there's some dogs that for the daytime stuff, like they don't come over right now. They do solo stuff and they might always do solo stuff. So my screening process is very, very extensive. Some families even joke that it's harder to get into our training programs than it is to Harvard, verbatim. But yeah, so we have a very extensive training process, onboarding process, training process. And I really just at the root of it all, I want the dogs to be happy and comfortable, and the other dogs to be happy and comfortable, the community to be happy and comfortable and safe. So it's a very extensive process to getting to even the ongoing care services during the daytime. It would be even stricter for the nighttime.
Okay.
And one more comment I want to make. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, finish.
Go ahead.
Okay, one more thing I was just thinking of too is that if a dog does come over for a daytime service or a nighttime service and they have more work to do, I've already had this conversation for the daytime services that, hey, your dog's not fit for this, we have to switch to a solo stuff in home, and I will continue those same principles for the goodness of the dog itself, the other dogs, the community, if they were going to be, you know, a nuisance to others.
I have one question. How many hours a day does the average dog sleep?
A lot.
What's a lot?
Between 16 and 20 hours. I make sure they get that rest. It's important.
Yeah. So you mentioned that you're comfortable with a maximum of 10 dogs staying overnight. How many days or how many nights would you anticipate would be a maximum that a particular dog who's in your training program would stay? Like,
So we don't offer board and trains where.
No, I mean where dogs are staying overnight because the owners have gone away on vacation. A lot of people go
You
away
mean-
for 2 weeks. Would you have a dog staying at your business establishment for 2 weeks? Is that
So, you
possible?
know, for the health of our business, I would hope that the answer is frequently, you know, that we can have it be a consistent thing. You know, I have my own dog, right?
But I think he's asking you, would a dog be there for like 2 weeks if somebody was on vacation?
Possibly, you know, possibly. It's hard to say and forecast those numbers because it's not something that we offer, but just
Well,
based off of.
I guess my real
Yeah.
question is, because I don't know
Yes.
how long the training lasts. So is there a maximum period where, you know, someone says to you, I need to be out of the country for 30 days because of my job. Will you hold, and my dog is in training with you, will you hold my dog for 30 days? And will
So
you,
if it's-
would you say yes to that, or would you say, no, that's over our maximum? Do you have a
So if
maximum?
a dog was still, it's a great question. If a dog was still like in the heart of training, I would consider that, I'm not sure, right? It just is a case by case basis. If it's a great dog and they have no behavior issues, yeah, they could stay for really as long as they need to.
So it depends
but-
on the dog.
It all depends on the dog. It
It
all
could also
depends.
depend on the owner.
Yeah, yes, it all
Right.
really, it's really heavily based off of the dog, and it's so important to me. And I also want to mention, Jay, I just want to make a correction. Jay said before, dogs that are in training. Yes, but if a dog is still in training, they're not ready to come over for that service, in my opinion. You know, I think that they would still need to be doing the at their home stuff until they were more suited to be able to be away from their home. And that's a case by case basis, right? So that's going to be something
But
that
if they did stay over, are you talking about maintaining their training?
maintaining their training. Yes. So that's the primary reason of wanting to offer this additional service is just say I trained your dog, Bruce, and you know, we had spent months together. Your dog is a great dog, and you're going on vacation, like you said, for 2 weeks. Yeah, I would take your dog. Now, if I just started training with you last week and your dog is at the beginning of their training, I would not be comfortable to take a dog that is that new into training, because it takes months for a dog to really be fully trained, depending on the dog's circumstances.
And
what they need.
what about a situation? I mean, I assume there would be situations where a dog completes its training, but then
Correct.
maybe
Yeah.
maybe a year later, the owner comes back and says, I'm going on vacation for 2 weeks and I want to leave my dog with you for a couple of weeks. How do you handle that?
So that's exactly why I want to add this service, because we've been asked this question so many times, and I only can do one-on-ones right now in other people's homes. So having this space now to be able to offer the overnight, I would say yes to you. As somebody that I've known for that long, I have a great relationship with the dog. I would say
So
yes to
then,
that.
so then Mike, what I'm really getting at is there a line between being a boarder and a trainer? In the sense that if somebody has completed their training, they can still board their dog with you after the training is over, right?
Oh yeah, well, that's where maintenance training comes in, because if you go send your dog, if you go bring your trained dog to somebody that's not a trainer, it's very, very easy for them to pick up other bad habits, and now they're undoing all the training that you worked very hard to do. And I've seen it happen before with, families. I wasn't available because, again, the in-homes, I can only do one, and they had to use somebody else. And a greatly trained dog is no longer a greatly trained dog after spending just even a couple weeks with somebody else that's not a trainer.
Okay, got it. I just have a couple quick questions remaining. I don't want to take up all the time. The conditions that dogs will be in when they stay overnight, are they in crates? Are they grouped together in a room? How is that set up?
So that's our whole thing is that I want to keep it a natural home environment, because that's how dogs are really the most comfortable. If by request you said, hey, at home my dog is in a crate, that person can bring their crate, I would use that. But our real main thing is to make the dog comfortable to what's natural to them. So if they sleep with a bed on the floor, that's how they'll sleep. If they have couches, we already have couches set up for them for daytime. That would just be for nighttime also. We have like movable gates to be able to separate the room. But really, I have this daytime service going on, and these dogs are trained, they're best friends. Some of them do better together, and some might do better separate. So it's all going to depend on.
So you have room for 10 dogs to live outside of a crate overnight together. Is that
Oh
correct?
yeah, we probably have room for a lot more, and I would defer to the fire marshal to give us, like every other business, a maximum capacity. But what I want to be able to handle would be about 10.
Okay,
Just to
and
keep our values and our principles.
okay, and you mentioned the fire marshal. That leads to my last question. Tell us about the security devices or systems that you have in place in terms of, let's say you and your partner leave the house, nobody's home, the dogs are there overnight, you're out late. Do you have cameras? Do you have sprinklers? Do you have fire alarms? What kind of systems do you have in place?
Great question. So we're still installing things because this is not a service. I wanted to make sure before spending a whole bunch of money that, we would be able to have this permission for overnight, as I'm sure you could understand. But yes, right now we have security alarms on every single door. We have cameras. We can talk to the dogs. We play Zen music for them, so they're nice and relaxed and don't get disturbed by, noises of the train and whatnot. In addition to that, also I'm going to be putting things over the windows, because it really freaks me out to not have things over the windows. So we're going to have either some type of shutter system or cages or something that would not allow somebody to be able to get in so easily.
Okay, so you wouldn't have a problem if we made that a condition of approval to
Not
have
at all.
security gates
No.
on the windows and all the other systems that you've just mentioned, that you would maintain those in place?
Not at all.
Yeah, not at all, because I really want that myself. So thank you for bringing that up.
Okay, I have nothing further. Thank you.
Okay, very good. Thank you. Mr. Cray, any questions of this applicant?
Yeah, I just want to get a feel for, again, quantities maybe. So typically during the day, you're going to be out training dogs off-site somewhere. Is that correct?
It's a hybrid model. Yeah, so it's off property, on property. It depends on the day. Depends,
Okay,
every day is
right, but
different.
your business is the growth of your business is going to depend on you taking on more dogs to train, right? So, and when you first start training them, you do it off-site, you don't bring them there. Is that
For that segment of the business, yes.
Okay, so as you're growing your business and you're getting new dogs to train, kind of by definition, you're going to not be here.
Well, she's not the only one that trains.
Yeah, Yes, I have a small staff.
Okay, so I guess the question is, I'm thinking about, 10 dogs in a rather small environment. How often, and I know it may be hard to estimate this, but how often are they there without anybody else in the house?
Oh, right now? Never.
So you're always there?
Somebody,
Somebody's
so
always there?
somebody is, so right now we only have, for the training operation side, we have somebody that's our manager who hosts the Adventure Care, which is the ongoing training program, right? And the dogs are still continuing their training out in the real world. He is always with them. And if he has to go, he's taking lunch, he's got to go to the doctor. We always schedule it where somebody is always on the premises with them. And also, I'll schedule my training at nighttime after I'm done with the work at the store. So I'm always there, or he's always there. And then we also have part-timers that will fill in on the weekends if I have to go out somewhere. We have a bunch of part-time employees that have been with us for years, actually. They're full-time teachers. They're with us in the weekends, after school, summers. So super reliable help. We have a really solid team. If I'm not there or he's not there, somebody else is there.
Okay, so that's the way you anticipate or expect to run things going forward, that you're never going to have the facility with nobody there overseeing it.
I do not intend to have that.
Okay. The space outside, I mean, again, same kind of thing. Is there ever going to be a time where you say, hey, we're going to take the 10 dogs and throw them out into the gated area, the fenced in area, to just let them run outside kind of thing? Or is that going to be metered with, again, somebody being with them? How's that going to be used, I guess?
That's a great question. So we do all of I don't really believe in that. It's not really fulfillment. It's a parking lot back there. Really, the way we use that backyard space is, again, for using the bathroom. But we fulfill the dog's needs out in the real world off property. And we pull into that back gate. The real reason why we got the gate was to be able to pull in off of the busy road, shut the gate behind us. And now we're unloading for lunchtime, rest time, training indoor. We're getting washed up because they're filthy, and we're grooming them. We're behind a fence, and they're fully safe from the street.
But I think his question was, are you going to be using the outdoor part to have all the dogs running around
No.
the backyard?
No.
I think that was your question, correct?
Yes.
And is that going to happen?
No.
And why not?
Because we're a training service that, really believes more in the dogs being naturally fulfilled in like the real world, not in a backyard. We've actually taught all the dogs that inside time is to rest. When you go in the bathroom, you're calm. It's more about having a calm dog at the end of the day, at the core, for how I train the dogs. I don't really like to use the word train. It's really teaching them and raising them.
Okay. Eventually, again, if you're growing your business, you're training new dogs, I know personally myself, finding a good place to take my dog is incredibly valuable, right? Because you don't want to drop them off somewhere where you're not happy with the environment. Assuming you're successful, and it sounds like you have been to date, that's going to grow. I mean, if you're limited to 10 dogs there, I'm assuming then that just means you're going to have to find additional facilities for growth, because if you've got 10 people who want to board their dogs there now on a kind of continuing basis, in that, you maybe that's 75 customers, but you only have 8 or 10 dogs. When that grows, if you're going to be restricted here, right? I mean, you'll have to.
So that's a great question. So I actually don't want to have more than that, because we're in New Jersey. I have dogs that pass away, they move, we're in an exit state. I have people that move all the time. So somebody I've known for 7 years moves, and I no longer see them anymore, right? So that's one big thing. But really the reason why we actually found, I look so hard to find this ideal size mixed use space. It's got some space in there inside that house. But I wanted to go wide on our services. So that's why we offer now the grooming and the stores, keeping going with everything we have during the daytime, and then the addition of overnight. So this is like how I wanted to serve the community more in a wide way versus like only offer one service where we're so reliant on only expanding. I don't want to manage that many people. I want to have just a good amount, small amount of dogs. And also my office, I started to train online now too. So we're not just in person only, it's also online. So having my office has been really good. So that's a way really more we're expanding. It's not just about adding more dogs to that one service of training and then the the ongoing maintenance training.
Okay, I'm good, thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Gibbons,
No,
Ryan?
I don't have any questions. Thank you.
No questions. Okay, thank you. I guess I'm up next. For the board's information, I have visited the site at least twice and had conversations with the applicant and all. During one of the site visits, the applicant referenced to me her staff, her staff, number of staff, and I think just now you've mentioned you have some various staff people. Can you just give the board a quick, and likewise you had said, I believe it was seasonal to some extent. Could you just give the board a quick overview of what your staff might be and vary?
You mean on a daily basis?
Well, I think our conversations sounded like it might be a little more seasonal in the summertime with help and so forth.
Well, that's so I can go on vacation. Somebody could just fill in for me when I'm not there. But yeah, so on a daily basis, just with the store now. So I'm in the store now during the daytime. My partner is handling the ongoing services of the Adventure Care program. Once he's back, because that's not a very long, everybody goes home pretty early. Once he's back from there, I'll go out and train, and he now is on premises. And we actually just lost a full-timer, by the way. So there was 3 of us, and there will be 3 full-timers again. So we have a little more flexibility, between us all. But we have a groomer that's starting on Friday, so that'll be somebody else on premises. And then, being open 7 days a week is a lot. So we do have help also on the weekends from part-timers. And then, like I said, the reason for that is so I could take a vacation.
No, you don't want to do that. Okay,
Yeah.
that pretty much answers my question. Mr. Behrens, do you have any questions of this applicant on the areas that we're exploring at the moment?
Yes, I guess since we're having the conversation, I don't really have any more questions about the use, but just relying on my memo, just some general questions about the application in general. So there's already a sign which was approved by permit, the Happy Doggy sign. It looks like you've spruced up the front of the building quite a bit with plantings and so forth. So appreciate the effort there. As far as lighting goes, I guess more of a statement than a question. As it pertains to the rear of the site where you let the dogs out, to not have any, let's say, spotlights that would impact the residential properties outside. Of course, you need some type of safety lighting probably for the back door, whatever the case may be. But, sometimes for residential and non-residential uses, people will have these bright white spotlights that light up the whole neighborhood. And I would just say, treat your neighbors the way you'd want to be treated.
Mr. Behrens, couldn't we
Yeah.
agree that
Yeah,
if she didn't
yeah.
install any lights in the back other than on the building itself, like for, a normal light, she could have it aimed into the property as opposed to out?
I would agree with that. Yes. So, shielded lighting fixtures.
Correct.
We would refer
We
them.
would accept that as a condition if that's
Alright.
installed.
Yeah, and one thing I
Appreciate
want to
that.
say about that too, Tom, is I like what you just said. I'm like, more than anything, I really value being a considerate neighbor, and you know, if we do install any lighting, I would turn it off at a reasonable hour. I'd make sure that we were inside sleeping at a reasonable hour, you know,
Mhm.
keeping schedules, just
Yeah,
being,
but-
just being a
but-
respectful person in terms of
but-
lighting and.
But what he was saying is that if you do put the light back towards the neighbor's side, you aimed it into your property.
Yes, yeah, it would not be a nuisance to our neighbors. I would never do that.
Mr. Behrens, anything else?
I appreciate that. I just lost connection. So I no reason to suspect otherwise, but just, you know, again, giving you the questions that I had in my memo. How do you handle waste, garbage and recycling? Do you have a location?
So because we have our apartment upstairs, we just are on the regular cycle of with the town every Sunday and Monday, is it? Sunday, Monday. And a lot of our waste actually we end up throwing out when we're out and about with the dogs, just in public trash cans. But anything that's on property, we're just on the regular schedule with the town, and they come because of the apartment upstairs.
Okay. And the Sprinter vehicles, they're not commercially registered, they're personal vehicles?
Correct. Correct.
Okay, all right. Just as a technicality, I mean, the borough on the one hand prohibits the parking of commercial vehicles overnight, which you're saying they're not, but we also typically don't allow recreational vehicles or RV. I know this is kind of a gray area hybrid, so I think we could deal with it. I'm just pointing it out as a formality here. Then I guess my final question, because we are dealing with some level of variance relief, can you help us to understand, and this is not a gotcha question, but why this site makes sense for your use? Not the apartment per se, but for your dog training use.
I love this question. So I was actually seeking out a mixed use space intentionally, and I looked for years because in my mind, having dogs be overnight somewhere where they're unattended is not acceptable. I would never want to bring my dog to a place like that just left the dogs unattended and came back in the morning. So I was looking for ideal size, because I don't want something so big. I want something where I could serve the clients wide and different services. And with the hopes, and I took the risk and I said, you know what, let's take the risk in this place and pray to God that makes sense for a town also to have us add the overnight service. And then it makes sense to have the town, you know, on the property, overviewing the property to protect the dogs underneath us. And that's really it. It's really for safety.
Okay, thank you. And then the final question, the apartment upstairs, is it a 1-bedroom, a studio, just for the record? So
It's a studio.
It's a studio apartment. Okay,
Yes.
very good. No further questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr.
Thank you.
Behrens. Mr. Atkins, you want to present your next witness?
There is no other witness. I don't think I need the engineer that did the site plan. It speaks for itself, and
Oh.
you have our whole application.
You have a D variance. You're gonna have any testimony by a planner?
Well, I had some discussion with Mr. Behrens about that. This use has been granted. The only request we're asking is to extend it to allow her to have the dogs inside overnight, basically. I don't see it as a classic D variance. I see it more like a kind of allowing an accessory use that makes sense for the town, that makes sense for the applicant, and that creates no negative impact on the community whatsoever. And I'm willing to go with that on this application. I don't think this application merited extensive and expensive planning testimony.
I don't know about that. Mr. Behrens, you want to comment on that? And then I'll ask Ms. Steinley to comment on that.
Well, I will add some commentary on that. So the test for a D1 use variance is determining whether or not the site is particularly suited for the use, both you know, whether or not the site makes sense, but also within the context of the community, hence the question that I asked earlier. And the two other aspects of the relief that are being requested are one for the boarding use, which we've heard testimony that it's really ancillary or accessory to the training use. So the training use is the primary component of this, and the boarding is secondary sort of as needed. And the outdoor operations are really limited to bathroom breaks and not, dog runs and training, maybe limited training, but not a free for all outside like you might see
Correct.
dog boarding. So I think that's an important distinction. Then the second part of that test is what's called the negative criteria, and there's two aspects to that. One is ensuring that there'll be no substantial impact to the public good. We've heard testimony that the applicant's been there for 6 months, haven't had any issues, and she's been thoughtful about trying to not impact neighbors. And then finally, that the proposal is not inconsistent with the intent and purpose of the borough's master plan and zoning ordinance. So the use was granted a CO, the primary training and grooming use was granted a CO. So we're, the relief's being requested for some ancillary components to this, as well as the existing residential use, which I'll get to in a second. The apartment's been there. There is mention in the most recent reexamination report that areas near the train station that are in commercial zones, not single family zones, may make sense for mixed use development such as this. And again, the apartment, I've seen documents that indicate the apartment's been there since at least 1984. So the issue that I brought up is that there's the municipal land use law dictates how a town can approve such a non-conforming use. You either determine that it's existed before the zoning ordinance was ever adopted, which we don't have that information. You can grant a variance relief such as being requested tonight, or a zoning officer can issue a certification for non-conforming use only up to 1 year after a zoning change. So again, hence my suggestion to formalize the residential aspect of this, which I think is a benefit to the borough as well as the landlord in this case. So that in essence is the planning thought behind all of this. It's up to the board whether or not to accept that or ask additional questions.
Well, that's all true, and we understand that. But my understanding is that D variance really applies to the extended 24-hour operation, which is beyond the borough ordinance.
That is also part of it.
That's the real question of the variance.
Mr. Merman, I wouldn't call this 24-hour, right? Dogs sleeping there in a dog training and grooming facility, not open to the public. It's a big distinction. It's not open to the public after they close. So if an owner had 5 dogs and they slept in his house, almost the same thing here. But she's doesn't have open hours to the public after closing. And her operation will meet all of the borough standards in terms of when she has to close the doors and be not in business. So I think it's a very different issue.
I think that's a little bit of a specious argument, though, because I can have 5 people over for dinner from my family. That's different than me running a diner. Okay? So because if I had 5 dogs and I have my 5 dogs here, that's different than me boarding other people's dogs as a commercial enterprise.
Yes, but she's not open. If they're sleeping there, she's not open for business to the public when the dogs are there.
I mean, if I made it a hotel, right, I'll move the analogy to a hotel. If I can have my family sleep over, I can't have a hotel and charge people to sleep over and just say, well, because they're sleeping, it's not a commercial enterprise anymore. It is a commercial enterprise.
I'm not saying it's not a commercial enterprise. I'm
and
simply
it is 24
saying.
hours. And it is 24 hours, and that's you're trying to kind of say it's not what it is. I mean, it's what she's doing right now during the day is very different than boarding dogs. She's now boarding dogs on a 24-hour basis, where prior to now, she was training dogs during business hours. Those are 2 different things.
And hotels check in at any
No.
time of the night.
Yeah,
You
and
can't do that here.
All right. Nevertheless, the borough ordinance specifies certain hours. And the variance that you're going for on the D side is a variation or an override of the permitted time usage. That's where we have this, and that's why I need testimony, I think personally, on that from a professional person. That's my status. Ms. Steinley, before you want to give us your outlook of this situation with the ordinance, with the variances and the need of a professional testifying?
Yes, thank you. In other circumstances, I believe we have permitted applicants to provide testimony regarding what is required to meet a variance, to establish a variance without having professional testimony. Mr. Behrens provided or explained what the criteria that's required for the relief that's being requested. And we've heard testimony from the applicant as to why she thinks she meets those criteria. It's up to the board to weigh whether the applicant's testimony provides the support for what is being requested. And if the applicant and their attorney wanted to present a planner's testimony, they could have, but I don't think that's going to happen today.
Okay, I'm gonna give the board an opportunity individually to weigh in on this issue. But Mr. Atkins, I would also mention we need testimony on parking, which is not the D variance, which is the C variance. Ms. Boland, you have an opinion about the variances, whether they're presented by a professional or not?
I am comfortable with what the attorney's presentation, and I'm going off of what Tom Burns said, that it's not really the main use, but an accessory use.
Okay. Mr. Ryan, oh, wait, Mr. Pfeffer.
I agree with Ms. Boland. Couldn't have said
Okay.
it better, so I would, I'll leave it at that.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Gibbons,
I trust our professionals, so stick with what with
Okay,
what Mr. Behrens
Okay.
brought to us. So I'm good.
okay. All right, so we'll move on now. We have a Mr. Atkins, we have a situation with parking.
We do, we have 10 spots. We only,
You
I
have
think we're only
10
required
spots.
we only required to have 8, and the applicant testified
Right.
they rarely use more than 3 or 4. And they park in the back. And that she also testified that the people that come there, they drop their stuff off and leave. They pick up dog food and leave. Nobody goes there to stay there. So I don't understand how, if you look at the site, there is any kind of parking issue.
Well, there certainly is.
If you wanted the spots relined or repainted, we could accomplish that. But there's
Yes.
plenty of room for it.
All right. Well, I'm particularly concerned with the parking in the front, which I define as from the gates to the street. You're going to need some striped spaces there, and I think we all agree on that.
We will do that. We'll accept that as a condition of approval.
Okay, all right. Those striped spaces should be of the proper size, not of the size that Mr. Costner put in with his little pencil.
We would ask the building official to come out and then Ms. Gilronin will obey his dimensional criteria.
Yes, I would prefer that occur with Mr. Behrens and Mr. Deepak.
However it is.
Stepkin, yes. Tom, do you have any problem with that situation?
Yeah, no, I mean, I'm not an engineer, and I do have a couple thoughts about it. Obviously the site's developed and it's been the way it is for a while now. I think, one of the reasons applicants come to the board is to try to correct deficiencies, and we do have some parking deficiencies. So from a, safety perspective, functionality, I think Mr. Merman's suggestion makes sense to look at how the current spaces could be relined so that they conform to the code. So,
And we accept that.
Right, okay, well, just give me another second just to elaborate. So, the minimum number of uses required for the mix of uses, meaning the apartment and the dog training use, have been determined to be 8. So they need at least 8. They're showing 10 on the plan, so we could even lose a space or 2 technically if it, gets us to have compliant parking. And in particular, on the left or south side of the property, there are parallel parking spaces shown. Some of those spaces are fairly short, let's say. So it might make more sense to have the correct size parallel parking spaces there and maybe lose a space, for instance, just so it could be striped correctly and again, be functional, be safe, et cetera. So that may be my recommendation, is that the board grant the flexibility to lose a space or 2 as long as it remains compliant, so that we can get better sized compliant parking spaces in coordination with the building department engineer, whoever needs to look at it.
No objection.
Okay, great. Yeah, I guess we don't need comments from the board if you agree. Let me just see where we are. Do you have
Sorry,
any further?
Mr. Merman,
Yes.
your camera is off. I don't know if you can bring that back up or not.
Is
There
it
we
on
go.
now?
Yes.
Okay. Okay. I guess, Mr. Atkins, do you have any further thing to put before the board? Any
No,
other
I was just
business?
asked, I thank the board for its attention and its constructive comments, and I would ask if to approve this local small business use in the community and with the reasonable request that she's requesting. And we're more than happy to agree to the lighting condition and to the striping of the parking condition. In essence, upgrade the site to a more current conformity than it's been for many, many years.
One issue I'd like to discuss with you is the condition of the variance. We're presenting a variance for this use for the times permitted by statute. I think that this approval should go with the business only and not with the land. Do you have a problem with that?
No, I think that's appropriate
Okay.
because it's very specific to the business. I totally agree.
Okay, very good. Okay, are there any further comments from the board members on the issues we've discussed so far before we go out for public comment?
Just
Not
to
hearing any?
confirm what was just agreed to, so the variance we just agreed would be just for this business, so if this business goes-
Specific to this business. Obviously, the board dogs overnight wouldn't go for a hardware store.
Well,
So yes, we agree.
So if the use
Yeah.
changed, or if the business changed, or if
Or a
even
new
the
tenant
operate,
came in, they'd
Yep.
have to come back if they wanted to operate overnight. They'd have to come back to the board.
yeah, if the operations change, even if the operations change for your business where you want to board more than 10 dogs overnight, you have to
You'd
come
have to
back.
come back. Absolutely.
Okay, I just wanted to confirm that's what was just agreed upon. Thank you.
I think it's reasonable.
As do
any
I.
other board members want confirmations before we go for public comment? Okay, not hearing any, I'll accept the motion to go out to public comment.
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. I guess we could take a voice vote on that. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Any abstentions? Okay, now we'll go out for public comment, and I guess, Ms. Steinley, you can handle
Yes.
those,
Thank you. We do have some members of the public. If you're interested in asking a question or making a public comment, please raise your hand on Zoom now, or you can dial *9 on your telephone. So you can press the raise hand button or dial *9. No one has raised their hand, so I think we're good.
okay, so that, can we
Oh,
have a,
oh wait, I'm sorry, Mr. Merman, we do have one person. All right. So you'll have to unmute it. The telephone number is 0382. If you press *9 on your telephone keypad, or *6, excuse me, you'll be able to speak. All right, please state your name and address for the record. Hello?
Yes, the address is 45 River Edge Road, and the name is Pei Liang. So 2 questions. First question is, I think the applicant had said the plan is to have 10 dogs maximum at the boarding house at a given time, but that it would be preferred if the fire marshal granted the max occupancy rate of X. I don't recall what the number was.
No,
So-
we've agreed to accept a cap of 10.
Okay. And then what is the plan for excessive barking, if any, for the dogs? Like, what's the plan for noise control if, let's say, you have 9 well-behaved dogs, but there's one that barks and causes the other ones to engage in barking for an extended time?
That's a great question. So, number one, I want to go back to prevention. So prevention really is just like with anything in life, like your health or whatever it is, prevention is the number one thing. So again, all that screening of making sure the dogs aren't going to be barkers is number one. On a daily basis, making sure that their needs are fully fulfilled. So by the time it's time to go to bed, they are just sleeping like logs. Number 3, we're going to be always having like Zen music playing so they can't hear outside and they're nice and relaxed. Number 4, we're going to be installing shutters in the outside that will also help with noise control. Number 5, we have, if there is a bark, I'm going to also be installing something that immediately lets me know that there is a dog barking. And if it, one bark might be okay, but if it continues on, I would assume that there would be somebody breaking in downstairs, like an intruder. And I would go downstairs and, or I'd look on the camera, and if I can settle them that way, that's great. And if I cannot settle them, I would go downstairs myself and make sure that they were okay and resettle them. And then back to what I said before about if that excessive barking continued because this, one dog had a behavior issue, I would immediately switch that dog to solo care, call the family and let them know that that their dog's not suited to have this care and they're going to have to go back to their own house.
And you also live there, so you're interested in not being disturbed.
Yeah, and I also live there. So yeah, I would not allow that to happen. That's, your comfort and respecting you as a neighbor, whether it was just my own dog or dogs for business, is really, really important to me.
Okay, do you have any other questions or comments?
No, that's it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, anyone else in the public wishing to ask questions or make a comment? You can raise your hand on Zoom. All right, it looks like we're good to go.
Okay. That being the condition,
So
we'll
It's closed to the public.
close, we'll
moved.
take a motion close to the public.
So moved.
Second.
Okay. There was a second? I didn't catch it.
Yes,
Mr.
Mr.
Pfeffer, did I hear you? All right, Eileen, fine, thank you. Before I go to final comments with the board members, I want to put forth some of the conditions of the final motion, what it will contain, the contents, so that you can work on that in your final comments. I'm going to read off my notes. We have the applicant agrees to limit 10 dogs maximum to the site. There'll be security systems
Can I
installed.
just interject? 10 dogs maximum for boarding.
Okay, you want to say, okay, that's good for boarding. For boarding. I'm writing down here, okay. There will be security systems installed. Exterior lighting will be shielded and pointed to the interior of the property as opposed to spilling over the fence. Parking, between the fence and the street will be, sized according to, borough standards and will be, reviewed by the, borough, building department and the borough planner in conjunction to location and, and with the owner in the field as to, a location and size. 1, 2, 3, 4, and all parking will be restriped. That parking being on the asphalt between the fence and the street. Now, did I miss anything?
Yeah, I
as it-
think all the
Oh,
parking
yes,
would
yes.
would be
There's one,
conforming to the size that the town now requires.
correct, yeah, I believe that's what I said. And the other one is that the variance for the extended hours for boarding purposes, will go with the business and not be, transferable via the land.
Yes.
Oh, okay. Now, okay, so board members, if you want to have a discussion and comment on those or add any others or embellish them, be my guest. And we'll start with Ms. Boland.
Nope, I think you have everything covered.
Oh, thank you. Okay. And we'll move on to Mr. Pfeffer.
Nothing further from me. Thank you.
Okay. Mr. Cray.
No, I'm good.
Okay. And Mr. Gibbons.
I'm good. Thank you.
And I'm fine. So did I miss anybody? I don't believe so. So based on that, can we have a motion to grant the variances with the conditions that we just stipulated?
So moved.
Second.
I need a sec. Thank you. All right. Very good. So now, Ms. Steinley, I believe we're going to need a roll call vote.
All right, 1 second. All right, and I'll call the roll. Ms. Boland,
Yes.
Mr. Merman,
Yes.
pardon me? Mr. Merman?
Yes.
Okay. Mr. Pfeffer,
Yes.
Mr. Cray,
Yes.
Mr. Gibbons.
Yes.
All right, the motion passes.
Okay, great.
I just have one other
Welcome.
question. Mr. Behrens, do you think this would be the appropriate time to at least memorialize the apartment as a pre-existing non-conforming use?
Yeah,
Given
I
it's been
think
there for
even better
40
than that,
years.
it was granted D1 use variance relief as part of that. So,
Okay.
right? I mean, it goes either way.
Yeah.
I mean,
That was part of the application and relief that was requested and approved.
Very good.
Okay,
And the Mets won.
All right.
there you go.
okay,
More importantly,
So-
the Yankees are winning.
Okay, even more important. Okay.
all right. So welcome aboard. And good luck.
Thank you all.
Thank you so much.
And
Thank
good
you so
night.
much for your time.
Okay.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
By the way, my office in River Edge, I think this is the latest I've ever been in my office, so this is good. Good night, all.
Good
Good
night.
night.
All right. So board members, we're gonna move on to the
Thank
quality
you so much.
homes. After we clear the airways here a little bit. And Marina, you want to introduce the topic and what you received from Mr. Barrett regarding quality homes application?
Yeah. Yes, so at the last meeting, we heard the application Quality Home Developers LLC for a subdivision at 312 Webb Avenue, and the application was denied. And that on Monday, I received a letter from the applicant's attorney, Mr. Barrett, asking that the board reconsider the decision for the matter. Mr. Barrett advised that the plans were revised so that no waivers will be requested for the submission documents. And the plans have also been revised to include additional drainage that will be installed on the proposed lot, and additional testimony will be provided to that effect. And so, as we've done in the past, we've taken a vote to approve the request for reconsideration or not based on what was submitted by the applicant's attorney. And Mr. Barrett has advised that he's prepared to come back to the board and renotice for the October 23rd meeting.
Okay, now, with that said, Mr. Behrens,
Yes.
I had asked you the other day if you could take the tax map 3, and blow it up and put it on your screen along the western boundary of the borough.
Mr. Chairman, before Mr. Behrens answers, I just want to interject that I'm going to be leaving for a moment because my battery is running low and I need to plug in my
Okay.
computer. So if I
Okay.
disappear, I'm coming back.
You got a hall pass. Okay, go ahead. Okay, very good. Can you put that up on the screen?
Yeah, so and what I have is not exactly sheet 3, but it shows the tax the parcel lines, let's say, in relation to the stream to the west, which I think is what we're after. So
Correct.
I'll show this. Bear with me here. And this is the state's GIS website. It's a mapping software, I guess. And the parcel in question is right here, block 302, lot 12. And you could see, again, it's at the I'll stop panning, the corner of 6th and Webb. And to the west is I forget if it's the Millbrook or the Van Saun Brook that is to the west. And one of the questions or one of the requirements was that the subdivision maps show streams or waterways within 200 feet of the site. And I can actually measure this. Let's see.
Okay.
Bear with me here. It's sticky fingers tonight. Let's see. So if we go from, let's say, even the closest corner of the site, 200 feet's right here. So you can tell the streams, approximately 550 feet away.
Okay.
So not even close in this case. So, I did see Mr. Barrett's correspondence, and he indicated that they would not be requesting any waivers and would comply with all of the completeness
Right.
items. And I believe the reason the application was denied, not because it required variance relief, but because the board didn't have the required information, to begin with. So
Right.
we, let the application proceed, but the board was uncomfortable with the level of information that was provided. Mr. Barrett indicated he's going to provide that information. I think once he does, because it is a fully conforming 2-lot subdivision, that
Right.
legally the board has to approve it, is the way the municipal land use law treats these things, barring any wild unforeseen circumstances. But I believe that's the case. And I think in this context, it's appropriate to reconsider the application, which is the request, as opposed to submitting a new application. I mean, I'll defer to Marina on that, but that's the request that's being made.
Well, Mr. Barnes, the reason I brought it up is, Mr. Gibbons, you had very much good concern regarding the issue of the distance to the water body, and that's why I wanted to review it for your purpose and for the rest of the board members. Mr. Gibbons, if you do have copies of the tax map, you could look at that part on the tax map.
Yeah, I had looked at it on Google Maps when we were in the middle of the conversation, and obviously I didn't know what 200 feet looked like.
It was a very valid comment, and I just wanted to make
Yeah.
sure that you were satisfied, and if any other board members had a
Right,
similar
It
concern.
was also, it was the streams, not to cut you off, Mr. Chairman, but it was the streams, it was how they were going to deal with stormwater and primarily it impacts to neighbors, as well as utilities, et cetera. So, the streams that was one of the questions that was raised.
Correct. Right.
In any event, Mr. Parrott indicated he's going to address all of those outstanding
Okay.
concerns. So,
So just, can I just ask one question while we're on that topic? So are we
Sure.
going to see what they're proposing for, for a
development.
wall, for a retaining wall? Because that's one of my main concerns is that house downstream
Yeah.
is gonna get flooded.
So
They're gonna
They-
get flooded. When this
That
house
I'm
comes
not-
up, they're gonna get flooded.
That I'm not sure, but Mr. Barrett advised that they were going to provide testimony and submissions regarding proposed drainage on the two lots proposed. So
I'd like to,
um,
I'd like to see engineering on what they want to have for that retaining wall.
yeah, I think that
How
will
tall
be.
that thing's gonna be, because I didn't get a good answer from their engineer.
Mr. Gibbons, I agree with you. As an engineer, he's going to have many challenges engineering wise on that project. And I think one of them is going to be the height of that retaining wall. And because I've designed many of those at that height. I think the other challenge is going to be how he's going to handle that portion of the site. He can put a building in there that comes out, the basement comes out onto the grade, or even with a 3-foot high retaining wall.
So-
But then he's gonna have a height problem and a fill problem.
I have a question. I mean, are they asking for anything more than the subdivision at this point?
No,
You're,
they're
you
not.
got feet.
So Mr. Cray's question was whether they're asking anything more than the subdivision right now, and that's correct. They're only asking for the subdivision because residential lots, if they don't require any variances, do not get site plan review. So they do undergo as necessary the soil movement permits and all the building department review and engineering review on that end. But they wouldn't necessarily require site plan approval. So Mr. Barrett is going to be providing the additional information regarding drainage and all of the items that were not included in the original plans.
Okay. Mr. Pfeffer, did you return? No. All right.
Yep, he's here.
Oh, he's here.
I'm here. Yes, I'm here. I thought you could-
Okay, while you were gone, what we did is we showed that it was roughly 500 feet from this site to the stream or the water body on the westerly boundary of between Paramus and River Edge. So I just wanted you to be filled in on that.
All right, thank you.
Okay, all right. Are there any other comments regarding Mr. Barrett's request before we vote on it?
Well, what would be the alternative? They have to start this whole application process over again?
Yes, and he mentioned that in his letter, that if we can come up with a decision tonight, he can get his mailings out in a timely fashion for the next meeting, I believe. Is that true, Ed? Is that, yeah, Ed's shaking his head. Yes.
It is true.
Yep.
And this is
Gotta
essentially what
be
happened
already
with
be
the,
placed for Friday.
and this is essentially the same kind, general idea that we had with the building on, over by Total Wine.
Yep, the
got denied and
similar
they-
process regarding that.
Similar
all of
idea.
that. Yeah, on the Dark Star application, we did the
Yeah.
same type of process.
Understood.
Okay, any other comments, concerns of board members before we consider approving Mr. Barrett's request?
So just to be clear, a yes vote means that we are agreeing to reconsider.
That's
Yes.
the way I understand it, yes.
All right, thank you.
Any other comments? All right, can we get a motion to, respond to Mr. Barrett's request? Yes, we'll entertain a new application as he, has suggested.
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. All right. Marina, do we need a roll call vote, or can a voice vote suffice?
I will do a roll call vote just for the
Okay.
record, and Ms. Boland was not present at that meeting. So I will not be calling her just because that's the same process we did at the last, for the last application
Okay.
where we had reconsideration, but Ms. Boland can participate in the next
one.
hearing if she's there. All right, so this is for the motion to grant the reconsideration. Mr. Merman,
Yes,
Mr. Pfeffer,
Yes.
Mr. Cray,
Yes.
Mr. Gibbons.
Yes.
Okay, the motion passes.
very good. Okay. That's it, I guess. Good night, all. Thank you. And we get out of here in a timely fashion.
All right.
All right.
Good night. Thank
That
you,
doesn't
everyone.
mean I'm gonna chair all the meetings henceforth. All right.
Can we just get a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Okay. All right. Second,
Mhm.
thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Oppose? Abstain? Okay, good night, all.
Thank
Good
you.
night.
night.
Good night,
Have
everyone.
a good Columbus Day. All
Good
right.
night.
Two.
Yeah.